Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Today I will be once again doing some animations in React, and once again I'll be using React Spring to do so as my choice of library. And this time around I will be showing another more advanced case. This time I want to move multiple elements into specific spots, like predetermined specific spots on the screen. And this is a very cool technique and can create some unique page transitions where stuff on the page moves into new spots as the new page loads up. It's pretty cool. And well, let's get started. First thing I want to do is to create the layout that I want to get when the animation runs. Okay, so I'm going to be creating a div here and give the class name final, and inside here I want to create just two images to test on. So let's create those images. Let's create one with a height of 100 and another one here. Just use the same image. Let's put a height of 50 here. Okay, alright, let's check in Chrome how that looks. Okay, we have our two images. That looks okay. Now okay, yeah, so let's add a little bit of styling here. So if we go to final or to index CSS, we can add some styles. So let me say final. Let's first of all try to make it flexbox and then try to put it in the center. Let's see how that looks. Okay, now we can also add a line item center. Okay, that's fine. Now let's add a little bit of spacing here. So let's try to target the first image. Let's see if this works. And then add some margin. Okay, that worked. Okay, great. Oh. Okay, cool. Alright, let's just say that is our final layout here. Okay, and one thing we need to make sure we do is to put the position to absolute, because this is the final layout we are trying to achieve, so we cannot have this in the flow of the document. Okay. Oop. Right. Now we need to add some extra properties to get the centering that we want. So let's try to do left 0 and right 0, and then do with 100%. See if that helps it. Yep, that looks good. Now we have our final layout. I won't do more about it for now. And next up we can have the current layout, so the layout we initially start with. Okay, so let's add a main tag here and then add two images again. Okay, now I'm going to go to the CSS file and then add some styling to the main. So let's add a margin top of 500 pixels. Oh, not 500, just 50. Okay, and then add some padding, 20 pixels. Okay, so it's over here. That's okay for us. Now I'm not going to go too much in detail with this current layout. I just rather show you guys the animation. So right now it doesn't look great, but it's okay for our use case. Okay, so how do we go on about this? Right, so our final layout needs to be opacity 0. Okay, and the reason for this is we don't want to show our final layout yet. We want it hidden behind our document and then pick up the coordinates and then use it in our animation. Alright, so let's just make a button here to fire off our animation. Now, fire animation. Okay, so we need some kind of state here so we can later on check this state to fire our animation. So let's just pull a new state and then say animate, set animate, and let's initially put it to false. Okay, so when we click this button, we want to set animate to true to fire our animation. Okay, now let's get some React Spring stuff in here. Okay, so how do we do? We can define a const here and then say, let's just call it props. Okay, let's just use some default names here, props instead, and then call use spring, and then return a function, and this function will return an object. Okay, and in here we are going to need 2 different variables. So let's just call one image1, and let's just put in some values here, 0 0, and image2 0 0, something like this. Remember, we need to import use spring from React Spring. If you haven't downloaded React Spring yet at this point, be sure to do yarn add or npm install React Spring. Okay, right, cool. So now we need to pick up some coordinates. Okay, and we do that by using a reference. Okay, and in this project we are okay just with 2 refs. So let's have an initial ref. Okay, use ref, and a final ref, use ref. So we need to have a reference for the final layout and our current one down here. Okay, so I'm gonna add this ref to the wrapping div. So this is our final ref, this is our what did I call it? Initial ref. Okay. Now, since we're dealing with refs, we need to add a use effect to do some work with these refs. So we need to add another hook here. So let's add it, use effect, pass in a function here, and then pass in an empty array here as the second parameter. Okay, this is our use effect. When we are working with refs, it's always a good practice to check if there's something inside our ref. So we can do if initial ref.current, if there's something here, we want to do stuff. Okay, and the stuff we want to do is to pick up coordinates. So let's start out by picking up the coordinates for the final layout. We can do this by saying coords final, and then on our final ref we can access current, and then do query selector image, and then call on the DOM element get bounding client rect. This function returns a bunch of useful properties for this DOM element, which is the first image that matches the selector. So it will be this image, okay? Now let's access the chords for the initial one. We do this by doing a similar thing here, just not on the final ref, but on the initial ref. Oh, I made a spelling mistake. Okay. Now we have the coordinates for the different DOM elements. So now we need to do a little bit of math. Okay. Now I'm gonna write two helper functions up here, just above our React functional component here, and one is called calculate distance x. This is when we are trying to figure out how far we need to move on the x-axis to get from point A to B. And here we are checking if the first parameter is less than the second one, to return to minus from. Otherwise, we return the absolute value of from -2. We also need another helper function for the y-axis, and here we need to check once again, is 2 less than from? If so, you want to return 2 minus from, otherwise return 2 minus from, where we put a minus in front. Okay, these two helper functions should be sufficient for calculating the distance. Let's have a look here. So if you go down to our use effect once again, we can now call set here, and set is our function to change our hook here, or our useSpring hook. Okay, and in useSet we just pass in whatever stuff we want to change. In this case, we just want to change image 1 to see if it's working. So in image 1, we want to calculate two values. Okay, and one is the x and the other one is the y. So here we can do calc distance x and then pass in the final coordinates dot x, and oh, sorry, this is not right. We need to pass in two parameters here. So the final chords and the chords initial. Okay, that's the x. Now we can do calc distance y and put in the y's for the final one first, and then the coordinates for the initials, the y. Alright, now this should yield the value we are looking for, but let's first fix a few things. So here it says we're missing a dependency. We're gonna add that in here, and then we are also gonna add another check up here in if. So we want to check if animate is true here, and then add it as a dependency down here in our use effect. Okay, now when using React Spring, we also need to make use of animated. So let's pull in animated here and then apply it to the stuff we are trying to move. In this case, we are trying to move our image, our first image here. Okay, so here we transformed our image into animated image, and now we can add in the styles. Since we are using this syntax where we don't have the exact styling here but just some names, we do need to specify down here what we're trying to animate. So since we're trying to move stuff, we want to change transform. Okay, and right, so transform, we want to access our spring, we want to access the values under image 1, and we wish to interpolate this value that we put here. Okay, and we get both an x and a y. Now what we expect to do here is we want to return the string, and since we are moving both on the x and the y axis, we want to do translate 3D. Okay, and then we can just insert the x value here and the y value here, and then remember to pass in 0 pixels for the third dimension. Okay, save that. Now I am pretty interested to see if any of this works. Okay, so let's go back to Chrome and then try to fire. Okay, so it seems like it moved to the middle. Now what we can do is to check if it actually went to the right place, is to go up here and need to go down actually, and then change opacity to 1 here, and then we can press it once again. Oh, it seems like we landed up in the right spot. Okay, that's very cool. Now if we go, I keep pressing the wrong keyboards today. Alright, let's go back to our editor. Okay, now I just did this for one image, okay, but I can do this stuff for the second image again. Just do it for the second image, and then down here add image 2 and then put in the calculation. So that is pretty simple. And since this video has already been running for a while, I won't do it right now. But if you guys are still confused, I can of course do it in another video. But I hope you guys can see the benefits here. I go back to Chrome. So yeah, this is very powerful because we can have this very smooth transition now as a page transition is happening, or you're clicking a button and something is going on, and we can get that exact placement we want here in a entirely new layout, and then add on top of that layout. Okay, so what you want to do after the animation is done, you can potentially hide the animated element that you just moved, and then just show set opacity to 1 here, and then build on top of this layout. And to do that, you can, in your set, you can do you can pass in an on rest here, and then do some functionality in here. So when you move the element, you can change a value in here that will set opacity to 1 here, and maybe demount your animated image from the DOM, something like that. Okay. I hope that was useful for you guys and understandable, and I hope this technique can be useful in your next React Spring project. Okay, super. Have a good day and thanks for watching.